Hey everybody, Pete with Optics for Birding here again. Today we've got another comparison video for you. We've gotten a really good response on the other Zeiss versus Swarovski video that we did comparing their very best Swarovski NL Pure to the Zeiss Victory SF. Now we're going to dial it back a little bit and take a look at the kind of second place binoculars that both manufacturers make. So today I've got the Swarovski EL 8.5 by 42 here, and I've got the Zeiss SFL 8 by 40. So both of these binoculars are right under the $2,000 mark, so we wanted to make this for people that are a little bit more budget conscious and not looking for that, alpha performance. Both of these are amazing binoculars. I'm just going to give you everything that you need to know about why you should pick one over the other, and get into the specific differences that a lot of people highlight. So once again, Swarovski EL 8.5 by 42. Zeiss SFL 8 by 40, a little bit apples to oranges, but they're very close. So I think it's still a valid comparison. So let's get into it. All right, so the first thing that a lot of people notice, of course, is the size difference. One of the main goals with the Zeiss SFL was to get the size as low as possible, give the weight, the smallest number that they could reach, and they definitely accomplished that. So the Zeiss SFL 8 by 40 is right around 22.5 ounces. The Swarovski, on the other hand, the EL is right at about 29.5 ounces. So you're saving close to a half pound by going down to the Zeiss. The other differences is that you're not going to be able to see exactly, but it is about an inch shorter on the Zeiss one, and the width is also a little bit of a difference, but not much. So I don't like to get too hung up on 1 millimeter here, one fraction of an ounce there, but you can definitely tell just by looking at these they are a pretty different size. Ergonomically, other than that, the main goal with the Zeiss SFL was to maintain that beautiful focusing system that the Zeiss Victory SF has. So what the term SF stands for in that binocular is smart focus. In the SFL, it just means smart focus lightweight because it's got that same focus wheel just in a lighter package. So what does that mean? Basically, with birding binoculars, focus speed is one of the most critical things that a lot of birders look for. And the ease at which you can turn the focus wheel is extremely important as well. So with both the Victory SF and the SFL, you've got the focus wheel located in a really ergonomic position. It's really easy to turn, and it's really quick. It only takes about 1.4 full revolutions to go from close focus to infinity with these. So a lot of people love these because they just fit so easily in their hands. They feel like a feather, and it's really easy to turn that wheel and get birds in focus really quickly. So that, I would say, is one of the biggest differences that I could point out between these two binoculars is that focus speed. On the EL, you have basically 2 full revolutions to go from close focus to infinity, which is not bad, but it does really feel on the slow side when you're trying to go from distances like 20 to 50 feet or 50 to 100 feet. The SFL certainly beats it in that regard. So on top of that, the way that the focus wheel is positioned, you do have to skew your finger up a little bit more just to get things to turn, and it's not quite as responsive as the SFL. So that's probably the biggest difference that we like to highlight, because for people that are just sitting on their back porch or on the deck and looking out at really long distances, the speed of the focus wheel really doesn't matter. And if you're doing mostly viewing distances of 100 feet and beyond, it's really not something to worry about too much. At the end of the day, this is still one of the best binoculars that we sell. And if you're not going to be birding a lot or doing really close-up viewing of insects, that kind of thing, the speed of the focus wheel is not really important. But there are tons and tons of birders that are exclusively in the jungle in Ecuador or Panama or something, or in the forests on the East Coast, and they depend on that fast focus wheel for getting their targets in focus as quickly as possible. So you really just have to ask yourself if you think that you need that. It's obviously very personal. It depends on the situation. It depends on the habitat that you're in. But if you don't care as much about the focusing speed and ergonomics as you do about the image quality, that's where I would say the EL is going to win for sure. So admittedly, and I don't say just me admitting this, by Zeiss's own admission, they are using kind of their second tier optical system in the SFL. So they don't have their best quality glass. They really have like objective lenses that are a bit of a step down. They don't have the same light transmission that some of their higher quality binoculars have. So like the Victory SF, for example, that's got 92% light transmission. This one, the SFL, is down at 90%, which is exactly the same as the EL actually. And the difference, there's no difference in light transmission. There is a very minuscule difference in the exit pupil. So with the 8.5 by 42 EL, you've got an exit pupil of like 4.94 millimeters. And on the SFL 8 by 40, it's exactly 5. So that difference is really not going to matter, I promise you. Both of these are going to do very well in low light if, as long as you're not viewing in an hour where your pupil will get bigger than 5 millimeters. All that said, like, the brightness is not the full picture, right? On top of the brightness, you want an image with high contrast. You want as sharp of detail as you can get. And because the Swarovski EL is using the Swarovski optics that Swarovski came out with in 2010, that means that they're putting all their best work forward, right? So they have the highest quality glass available to them. They have the best lens coatings and prism coatings that they could possibly have. And then, on top of that, one thing that they share again with the SFL is that field flattening lens system, just to give you, a nice pristine field of view everywhere, as opposed to a nice picture in the center and a fall off in sharpness toward the sides. I would say the biggest difference in the image quality is really just going to come down to the glass. And for people that are looking for the best possible image and you want the sharpest detail that you can get, the highest contrast, I would definitely give the edge to the EL. Again, it comes down to whether you think image quality or ergonomics are more important, right? So with the EL, I would say I can definitely make out smaller details at longer distances. And having tested them on like a resolution chart, I would say the resolution is definitely a little bit better in the EL. And it again has to do with whether you're looking at the whole picture or you're looking at specific aspects of the binocular that you think are the most important to you. So I would say, as a daily driver, a lot of birders are going to go with the SFL because it's just way more ergonomic. It's easier to take with them. For closer quarters, it's a lot more robust because you have that faster focus wheel that's easier to turn. On top of that, one of the image differences that I haven't even talked about is that with the SFL, you've got a close focusing distance of about 4.9 feet. With the EL, it used to be the exact same, like right around 5 feet or so. But when they came out with the NL Pure line and they lowered the price of the EL so that they wouldn't compete with themselves, the only way that they could really accomplish that without significantly lowering the performance overall is by getting rid of that close focus ability. So now the EL has a close focus of 10.8 feet, which, again, for long distance viewing is not going to matter. But for a lot of our customers that are doing, general birding on top of, insect viewing and looking at birds that are really close to them, that 11 feet is just not going to cut it, right? So again, have to throw the ball back in your court to decide which one would be better for you. It just comes down to whether you think you're going to be taking advantage of that close focus or not. So just to highlight again, the image quality difference is, I would say, definitely going to be better in the EL because you have that higher glass quality. However, as like an overall daily driver, I would definitely give the edge to the SFL just because ergonomics and image quality combined, I think, are very important. And overall, I think it's just a better binocular. So one of the only other differences that I could point out is in the field of view. So the EL 8.5 by 42 has got a 399-foot field of view at 1,000 yards. The SFL 8 by 40 has a 420-foot field of view at 1,000 yards, which, yes, that's technically wider. But what I am trying to emphasize in a lot of these videos is that field of view can be a little bit overrated, and that 21-foot difference really is not as much of a difference as it sounds, right? So if you're measuring that distance at 1,000 yards, 21 feet across your field of view is just not as noticeable as it sounds. So in terms of the field of view, it's not like you would pick up one binocular and then the other and notice a huge difference. It's really just a difference on paper. However, there is one little X factor here, which is that for people with really narrow set eyes, right? If you have eyes that are too narrow for a binocular or too wide for a binocular, none of the stuff that I just talked about is going to matter, right? Because if you can't get both of the barrels splayed in or splayed out enough for your eyes, obviously you're not going to be able to see the full image, and everything that I just said is pretty much moot because it doesn't matter how much light transmission there is or field of view or glass quality. If you can't get the image lined up with your eyes, you're not going to be able to see that, right? So the only reason I go into detail about this is because the SFL 8 by 40 is one of the first binoculars that we've seen that has a minimum interpupillary distance of 52 millimeters, whereas on the EL and a lot of other binoculars that we carry, it's closer to 56. So, you might want to talk to your optometrist before you make a big purchase like this because that is really, really critical. And you know, even the nicest binocular in the world, if the interpupillary distance isn't set correctly, you're not going to get a good experience with that. So for people with really narrow set eyes, we do have people that have, you know, 54, 53, even 52 and lower interpupillary distances. It's not as common, which is why some manufacturers just don't pay attention to it as much. And we're really glad to see Zeiss accommodating those people with a little bit narrow set eyes, because it gives them, you know, a premium binocular that they can use without having to choose between their left and right eye. So again, 52 millimeter minimum interpupillary distance. It just gives people access to a premium binocular that they wouldn't have had before, because even Zeiss's and Swarovski's best binoculars, like the NL Pure and the Victory SF that I talked about, they can't fold in as narrow as these can. So just wanted to mention that, because we do have a handful of customers that have bought them specifically for that reason. If that sounds like you, if you're not sure, again, you can always take a little ruler and measure the distances between the centers of your pupils, but your optometrist should have that handy. So yeah, that's my rundown of the, once again, Swarovski EL 8.5 by 42 versus the Zeiss SFL 8 by 40. I just wanted to do this to give people a sense of, you know, my two favorite binoculars at the $2,000 level and below. Again, just to highlight my main points, ergonomically, the SFL definitely wins, and the image quality is not that much worse than the EL. But at the end of the day, I think there's no substitute for glass quality. And if you're really going for that premium image, the EL is going to give you that. And if you're only looking at long distances, this might be a little bit better for you. And especially if you don't care about ergonomics and portability and all that stuff, the EL might be the best one that you can get. So if you wanted to learn more, please visit our website, www.opticsforbirding.com. You can always reach out to us on social media for questions. We'd love to chat with people there. And at the end of the day, if you want a one-on-one discussion with us, please give us a call at 877-674-2473, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have. So thanks again for watching.